The next formula we're going to look at when we're dealing with lines is point of division. So point of division formula is the position of any division point on a segment, so on a line, that can be found using a fraction or a ratio. So right now we're going to convert the following ratios into fractions. So this is a ratio, 2 to 3. So how this is going to work is you're going to, the first term is going to stay the numerator, and then the denominator is going to be 2 plus 3, so out of the total. So you're converting that ratio into a fraction. So for example here, the first term is your numerator, so that stays, and then you're going to add both terms together, 4 plus 5, to give you your denominator. Same thing here, 1 out of 3. 1 is the numerator, 1 plus 2 is 3, that's the denominator. 3 over 4, that is the numerator was 3, 3 plus 1 is 4, that's your denominator. So we've just done conversion. Now that's important because sometimes in questions they will ask you for ratios and you have to be able to convert those. There are two formulas that can be used to determine the point on a line segment. The first one can be used in any situation. And it's x1 plus a over b. A over b is your fraction or the ratio that you convert into your fraction, times the change in x. Now remember that triangle means x2 minus x1. Same thing here, that triangle means y2 minus y1. It means the change in your y values. That can be used in any situation, but then you have another one that's a little bit easier called midpoint formula, which you can only use when in the question it says that there is a midpoint, or the middle, a point is located on the middle of the line, or the median of the line, or it divides the line into two equal parts. Then you can use what we call midpoint formula. So it's only used when your point is exactly in the center of both. Okay? So median, middle, halfway, those are all synonyms for midpoint. So let's do an example. The coordinates of midpoint M on a line segment CD, whose endpoints are -2, -4, so there's my x1, y1, and 4, 6, which are my x2, y2, can be found doing the following steps. The first step is to choose the appropriate formula. It's a midpoint, so we can use formula number 2, midpoint. So x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So you're looking for an x and a y coordinate, that's why there's x's and y's there. Now you're going to substitute in the values. So the x's, -2 plus 4 divided by 2, and -4 plus 6 divided by 2. So -2 plus 4 divided by 2 gives me 1, and -4 plus 6 divided by 2 gives me 1. So this is the midpoint. The midpoint between those 2 points is 1 and 1. So we'll do another example. Point P divides segment AB into a ratio of 3 to 1. Right away you should be thinking about how to convert that into a fraction. Remember the first term is your numerator, and then 3 plus 1 is 4. So that is my fraction, whose endpoints are 3 and 7, so that's my x1, y1, and b, x2, y2. What are the coordinates of point P? So in this case, we can't use midpoint because we have a point that's 3/4 along the line. So if that's the case, so we have a point A and we have point B, we're looking for point P, which is 3/4. Okay, it's 3/4 along the line, AB. So we need to use the point of division formula, which looks like this, if you remember. x1 plus a over b times change in x, y1 plus a over b times change in y. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find your changes in x and changes in y. So x2 minus x1, x2 is -4 minus 3, so -4 minus 3 gives me -7. So I get -7 here, and then y2 minus y1, so the change in y, is going to give me -10 minus 7, which gives me -17. So now I have everything, I can put it into my formula. x1 is 3, so 3 plus my fraction, which is 3 over 4, times my change in x, which is -7, My y1 is 7 plus 3 over 4 times my change in y, which is negative 17. So all it is substituting in all of the values for your variables. So if I do this in my calculator, I should get an answer of negative 2.25 and negative 5.75. That is the point, that is point P. That's what you should have gotten on your calculator. Let's go to the next example. A circle has a diameter, so we start to draw. A circle has a diameter with endpoints at negative 4 and 10 and 3 and 6. Find the center of the circle. Well, if I'm finding the center of the circle, that means the midpoint. So I can use the midpoint formula. So midpoint is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Okay, so we got to label our coordinates. So this is my x1 and then my y1, just so I don't get confused. It's going to be my x2 and my y2. So negative 4 plus 3 divided by 2 and 10 plus 6 divided by 2. If I put those together, I should get an answer of negative 0.5 or negative 1/2 and 8. That is the midpoint. So this guy right here is negative 1/2 or negative 0.5 and 8. That's the point of the midpoint, the middle of the circle. Next example. Line segment ST has endpoints of A 3, 7, so that's my x1, y1, and B negative 4 and negative 10, my x2, y2. Find the coordinates of point R, which divides the segment in a fraction of 1/2. Well, if it's in a fraction of 1/2, that means the midpoint. So again, I can use midpoint formula. So you put in your formula. So midpoint is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2, so 3 minus negative 4 divided by 2. Oh, it should be plus, sorry. So 3 plus negative 4 divided by 2, and 7 plus negative 10 divided by 2. So 3 plus negative 4 gives me an answer of negative 1. Negative 1 over 2 is negative 0.5. And 7 plus negative 10 gives me negative 3 over 2, which gives me negative 1.5. That is my midpoint. We'll do one last one. Find point Q on that same line. So we've got line A 3, 7, B negative 4, negative 10. So the same coordinates. A is 3 and 7, and B is negative 4 and negative 10. Find point Q on that same line if it divides the line into a ratio of 2 to 3. Well, if it's a ratio of 2 to 3, what's its fraction? 2 over, what's 2 plus 3? 5. So here we can't use midpoint formula. We have to use point of division formula. So remember, x1 plus a over b times change in x, and y1 plus a over b times change in y. So we need to find the change in x. So change in x is equal to x2. So let's label these again. x2, y2. So we're going to label them. So x2, negative 4 minus 3 gives me negative 7. Yeah, so negative 4 minus 3 gives me negative 7. So I get negative 7 plus 2 over 5 times, oops, sorry, hold on a second. That's not exactly true. x1. x1 is 3 plus 2 over 5 times negative 7. Now the y1 is 7 plus 2 over 5, and what's the change in y? Change in y is equal to y2 minus y1. y2 is negative 10 minus 7, so we get negative 17 times negative 17. So if we put these together, we should get an answer of negative 23.8 and 0.2. And that is the point. That is the point, that is point Q. So that is point of division. Now, what is last to do with the problem? Coordinate geometry, geometric properties. So this is a potential question on a government test. Show that the quadrilateral, remember a quadrilateral is a shape with 4 sides. Show that the quadrilateral given by the vertices 2, 2, 4, 6, 9, 6, and 7, 2 is a quadrilateral.